Can you talk about native intelligence and its place in the world today?
Well, literally, or maybe actually, native intelligence is about using herbs. Native medicine, native wisdom is about using the herbs. But to properly use them, you really need to know what they are, what they do, what their effects are. Yeah, using that, but I mean using water, of course, primarily water and air. So we're talking about the elements in their purified forms. See? Vegetables and fruits, things that are grown, basically. Yeah. But not just physical foods. We need psychic food. See? We need good thoughts. We need good emotions. See? We need happy thoughts. See? We need enlightened thoughts. See? We need enlightened music, enlightened ears, right? Enlightened eyes and noses and mouths and bodies. We need enlightenment, see, awakened, see, to the spiritual, to the inner, see, mostly. We need that. So this is what the natives were trying to do from their, let's say, culture. Not all, but I'm saying in terms of the medicine people. Yeah, it's to heal their people. See, give them from the earth what they knew was good for them, to keep them going. But we've seen that native people come and go. See? They weren't able to sustain, in many cases, their existence as such. So some have had to change with the times. But the important thing is change how much. See? How much do you need to let go of your original beautiful culture for the present condition, right? Which I feel is not that much. Depends on what the natives have become, see, or are becoming in terms of, let's say, industrial, technologic geniuses in their own right, see, if that's what they choose to be. See, to keep up with the rest of humanity's idea of evolution, see, the materialistic view of it, the business idea of evolution. And some natives have gone on to remain as natives and maintain ordinary lives and still try to keep their sanity, which I think is the whole purpose of medicine, in any form, or healing in any form, is for the purpose of maintaining, preserving sanity, keeping the people sane, feeling good, feeling okay with themselves, not being out of whack. All right. Go ahead.
Some of their shamanic knowledge in terms of, let's say, which plants do what and how to combine them, and these things seem almost impossible. Like, where did that knowledge come from to find out these two disparate plants combined in a certain way will create this?
Well,
where did that, was that wisdom earthbound, or did it come from somewhere else?
Well, I mean, some people would say it came from somewhere else, but I mean, that is to ignore or deny our inherent intelligence. See, we are the universe. See, the idea of the God and the Buddha, right? These are, or Christ, and for some people, in certain schools, are concepts that have to do with our connection with the infinite. It's just human beings, basic human beings. Yeah. So when you have, say, the Buddhist speaking about Buddha nature, they're talking about everyone. It's born with the same potential. And they prove it by having the people train in certain practices where they prove that they have the same potential, and they enter, let's say, similar states of consciousness, realization, knowing, or clarity. So that's proven. Now for musicians, they have their music to bring people into certain states of consciousness. But I'm not only making a reference to social music necessarily. There are deeper forms of music. Some are specific to meditation forms of music, which traditionally have a sense of calmness and clearness and easiness and sleepiness. See, sleep music is not really meditation music as such. See, it may not be the best meditation music to put you to sleep. For some people, they need to be put to sleep, perhaps, in order to experience some kind of regeneration or something, say, recovery. But there are higher forms of music because there's higher intelligence and higher energy that can be put out through music. See, through music. So musicians have the power to heal people. but they have to change their stations a little bit, and to get to that point where they're actually more concerned with healing than entertaining, or impressing people. This is a very important topic. See? What are you using music for, or how are you allowing sound to use you? For what purpose? Towards what dimension of activity or functioning? See? Towards what level of revelation or, let's say, inspiration? Is it just simple sounds? Maybe not. Is it just complex sounds? Is it chaotic sounds? Maybe not. See, is it loud sounds or quiet sounds? Maybe not. See? So there's a lot to explore there, because different people need different sounds. Different people need different forms of music to arrive at some kind of peace. So we need pacification to some degree. Not necessarily entertainment, although entertainment is pacifying to a certain degree. See? But it's there to impress you, to entertain you, not to liberate you, see? Except to distract you for the moment by way of one artist sharing their experience of what they believe is beautiful and loving and so on. And so you have a moment of that and then it fades. See? So we're talking about music then beyond music that transforms people. Open something for them in order to not merely arrive at healing, but actually then acquire or recover a whole new sense of direction for themselves. See? What's the next direction? See? So if it's deeper, it may require more intelligence, more focus, more effort perhaps, because it's deeper. See? To maintain. It means effort. I mean, it's not superficial. So to go deeper means you have to work at it. And so this kind of hardship in order to access the spirit or the higher creative is part of the process. So it is hard to get away from the norm and what is generally considered to be mediocre, see, average. See. We have the potential way beyond average, each and every one of us. But do we care about it? To do anything about it? See, do we work towards that? Do we strive for the above or beyond average? See, well, is the average good enough for us? Maybe average is the ultimate for some people. That's all they can aspire towards or can handle. But for creative people, they have to go beyond that. They have to set a different goal for themselves, a different standard. And they have to reach like the mountain top, the peak. They have to go towards the peak, the summit of the mountain. That's for those who are very strong. And whether that's for consciousness exploration or for as scientists are doing all the time, the astrophysicists are doing that all the time. They want to know more, they want to see more of the, let's say, the inner workings of the divine itself, the mystery. And they're doing everything they can to explore space, by all means, including the possibility of destroying themselves in the process. It's a very risky proposition there. We're trying out new machines and new, let's say, forms of technology. It's risky. It's dangerous in some cases. See? So we have what we call sanctioned endangerment, right, relative to an occupation, right? Right? It's so dangerous. And so we have to take it upon ourselves as natural explorers to do what we feel we have to do, to know what the truth is. And if it's in music, you have to explore it. You have to go deeper, further than what you've heard. So the important thing is who can carry it farther down the road. See, who can carry it? Who's willing to push see, beyond the ordinary limits that satisfy the needs of others, so to speak. See? So this goes right back to Leary and people of such a, let's say, inquisition, right? Inquisitiveness. That they want to know, what makes the mind work, what turns it on. I think that was one of his mantras, to turn on and drop out and all of this. And that's basically what yoga is about. Not by that means or method, but it's to turn on, right? Drop out, right? And what?
Yeah. Well, it was turn on, tune in, and drop out was his.
Right, or drop in, which is also what it is. You don't just drop out. There's no just out to drop into. It's dropping in. See? So useful, but it wasn't the answer for everybody. So that needs to be the understood, I guess you might say, conclusion for this conversation. So there's no one thing that's the answer. For musicians, it's music. For scientists in medicine, then it's drugs. It's drugs. So the government has its own drugs for you that they prescribe, and they're not always the best for you. So there's danger there, but they have the power, so that's forgiven. Go ahead.
So while the shamans and Leary and people like that are exploring inner space, is that the same space that the scientists are exploring as outer space?
Depends on what it is you're perceiving as inner space. Einstein was a meditator. Einstein was an introvert to a higher degree than people know, but where else is he going to find us? These are things that he discovered, see, about gravity. You didn't necessarily look into a telescope to see it, see, or maybe not even a microscope, see, but he had an inoscope, there's no question about it. He had an intelligent scope, see, and so he had to think it out, so to speak. He had to solve these problems, so he worked on it. See. And so what we're talking about is still due to high intensity introversion, see. That's what a musician has to do, is to go deeply into his music, into his mind, the mind that creates and manifests the music. He needs to go into that and start to affect it in such a way where what comes out of him or her as a musician is what is desirable or, let's say, corresponding to a vision that one has. I'm playing my music that is fulfilling vision I have had. And I see it when I'm playing, I see it unfold right in my face. See, it's the creative, it's not particularly anything else. It's a need to know the infinite. So once your mind is open to the infinite, you're well on your way. Because then anything is possible at that point. See? You're going back to your source, which is creative intelligence, and not anything else, even though there may be times when you might need some kind of medication, because your body is in need of it. So you do what you have to do, and you try to get back to the most natural, most original and native sense for your source and your practice. See? And then you get into the habit of referring to that. And for some people, they just need to be playing more, but listening so that they're not playing the same thing all the time. You have to have some intelligence and discernment if your playing is just going around in circles, or if your playing is progressing. You should be able to determine what you're playing that is actually, let's say, more than 2 minutes ago, better than an hour ago, and definitely way beyond yesterday. Okay? You have to hear that. You have to have confidence in your creative ability in order to do that. That's a certain mode of operating.
Is that an intuitive process?
It can be. It can be an intuitive process, if you want to call it that. It can be an intellectual process to begin with, where you hear patterns of music and say, yeah, I hear those patterns of music, but how do they lead to what I need to hear? How does one pattern of music lead to, let's say, a new form? Well, you might have to experiment a little bit. See? And that means you might have to take a scale, a standard scale, and modify it. Go over it. Change it. It's all there on the piano. Keys are there. So then it's what you hear. So then you have to be willing to hear more than you've heard. You have to be willing to see more than you've seen. You have to be willing to know more than you've known and be more than you've been.